networks and facilities. As we all know, mainly the main pillars, or one of the main most important pillars actually in any strategic plans within the governmental or the utilities is to reduce non-revenue water, because actually it imposes a huge stress on the water utility. In Jordan, just to mention some numbers, it is almost about 40% of our produced water is lost in the non-revenue water. And addressing the scarcity of water and taking into consideration the population and the migration and all of these things, we have to address, let's say, in other way, in new resources, and to save the resources which is lost. We will have 4 speakers. We will start with Mrs. Nakati. She is a mechanical engineer and she has a master's degree in marketing. She's in the business of water meters and the research and development since 30 years. You don't look like that. And she will take us in a tour about their research on the water meterings and how to address the non-revenue water, which is mainly, as we all know, maybe it's a commercial and a physical part of it, which is in the commercial with the illegal use or the measurement and the less accuracy of the measurement, which will be the main purpose of the first speakers. Mr. Nakati.
Well, I was told to correctly position the mic. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity of my first presentation in Middle East in a congress so important like this. I just need to put this on. Okay, is it just like this? Okay. Actually, the vision that I'm trying to bring up here is a little bit different from whatever we've been talking about. I have to get closer to the mic. Though this mic was used in Oscar Awards, apparently this is still quite sensitive. Well, what I'm bringing here is only and only our experience in metering. We've been listening to a lot of different speeches and a lot of different studies regarding non-revenue water. And there are many, many theories, many studies, many cases that now are becoming quite concrete. So I took one small little piece of all of these cases, and I intend to develop it now. It's regarding to the kind of information that you need to really analyze and reduce water losses. Today, different from the time we started to speak about non-revenue water, let's say a story of nearly 20 years now that I've been listening to a lot of different speeches and so on. By the time I started in the business, there was no big data. There was no cloud computing. There was no, let's say, technology that could handle such amount of information, such frequency of data coming in, coming out from any system. So today we have all of these resources, but even so, we see that companies are still struggling with a lot of information and not always succeeding to really account properly and say, well, this is exactly what I lose, this is exactly what I succeed in my program for non-revenue water. Why is that actually? I truly believe that there is let's say, some kind of misunderstanding in saying, I need a lot of data. I need a huge amount of data so that I can really succeed to reduce and succeed results. But actually, what I've been going through is that we are increasing frequency of reading, we are increasing the number of information coming up to the systems that, the softwares that can analyze and so on. But are they all that important? Maybe I've been hearing a lot about real-time information. Imagine that every second you receive information from meters. What actually you're going to do, or are you prepared for that? It's like, let's say, a doctor who has alerts real time from all the patients he gets. Well, it's possible today because there are devices that can alert doctors saying, well, this patient has problems in this and this and that, but is he capable to react immediately? This is the question that I have here. The pace of collecting data today, we have really fantastic technology indeed that we produce in my company, but then after, if there is no action behind, no matter how fancy is the technology, non-revenue water levels maybe will remain at the same level if there is no action that follows all the information that are coming into the system. So what I defend here is, okay, we have a lot of information, but let's start by getting the right data. What is the basic and essential data you got from the current data collection systems? It's basically the index of the meter, right? Starting from the index of the meter, starting from the habits or consumption or patterns that we can create, we will probably then create actions that are useful for the utility. Years ago, in the early stages of automatic meter reading, I heard a very strange phrase that they said something like data graveyard. And it sounds for me very strange at the moment as saying, well, more data we have, we should be more comfortable to decide something. But actually, in the near future, if we don't care about using properly all what we are collecting, probably you will get completely diving in so much information that you will not be capable to decide. It's something like when you go to a store and you want something white, but then suddenly somebody comes with a full palette of 100,000 colors that looks like white, but actually it's slightly different from each other. What I'm saying here is, okay, let's collect the right data and create the right information to act behind. Okay? So it's, I'm sorry, I need somebody from technical. It's not moving according to what I'm saying here, the presentation. I was supposed to be here. Okay, thank you. So, okay, this is very specific, but being metering business, this is a classic example I bring up every time. I always wonder, every time I see it, how water utilities can reduce water losses problems if the basic data is not right. Correct me if I'm saying something completely absurd, but as far as I know, to calculate the hydraulic balance in a network, we need to know how much water we input and how much is consumed by the system. But what if, let's say, meter is not working, all the devices that supposed to account this are not working properly? So how we can really define the right level? To reduce, this is what I have been observing, is to reduce from levels above 50%, no matter what is the action, the results are immediate and visible. When there is a high level of losses, massive solutions will always be effective. Like, for example, if you go through a massive program of changing pipes, massive programs of changing meters and so on, you might reduce them. Maybe in an expensive way, but anyways, the results are very immediate. Now, when we come below 50%, and mainly when we get closer to 20%, for example, it's more difficult to define actions if we don't know exactly what is the kind of losses we have. So one of the things is that if we are capable to point out precisely, is it leakage in the network? Is it meters that are not working properly? It's better and it's easier to define real programs to reduce it. So at this stage, it's really about accuracy, regular data that you receive, and let's say you have a medium frequency. I'm not saying real time, I'm saying more like, okay, if I get at least once a day or once a week data, we might have more details that are simpler to, will help us to define better programs. When we go to below this, this level, it's like the last 2 kilos that you have to lose when you are on a diet. You really need to know exactly, have really, really accurate information, the precise information to be capable to act, okay? So those are the points that I'm pointing out here. Depending indeed of the level of the non-revenue water you have, then we will start to define how much data we will collect, we will need to collect. Instead of defending, let's stop non-revenue water, here I say, let's stop non-revenue data. If you are just collecting data and store them, this is only extra cost for you. So let's start to work on the information that you have, adapt them to your resources to really act, and use them, mainly use them for specific actions. So the data coming from meters are most precious, the most precious ones, but we have to combine them, and we have seen the case just before the break. The last case was typically a case where the utility was using combined data to reduce losses. This utility probably, they understood my vision. They are using exactly what I'm speaking about. I've been hearing some buzz through different sources on web, defending furiously the need of real-time data. But real-time data, if you're not prepared to use them, it's somehow creating your own hell, actually, because you start to accumulate more and more actions, and at a certain moment you will not understand what you are doing anymore. This is a typical case. So just a very simple example. So let's start by metering. I have 1 meter. I have one volume that I can calculate. And based on this information, if I accumulate over a year, for example, I am capable to start to analyze. But then, remember, I just started with one single information, but I'm working on that. I'm working on a daily basis and creating a pattern. Well, if I realize that consumption historical history is dropping down, it can be many different reasons. But the actions are different depending on where I am and what kind of customer I have. First of all, I have to check if my customer database is accurate enough. I have to know if the customer profile has changed or not, the type of consumer that I have. do I have to check if the consumer is really present in this endpoint or not permanently? And eventually, if all of these cases are verified and none of them are correct, well, probably we have to go through replacing the meter to avoid extra losses. But see, this is quite different from just saying, okay, it's dropping down, let's change all the meters. It's really working point by point, working on precise and optimized information. Another thing is about creating data, or the amount of data necessary to solve the real challenges for each case. If we are looking for reading productivity, if we are looking for just reading more frequent and reduce maybe costs overall in the reading process or billing process, we can keep tariffs at a certain level. If we are looking for information to deal with customer insatisfaction, then we will reverse this scenario, going through customer engagement. If I am able to keep the asset management easier for me in such a way that I can really meet all regulation and at the same time optimize my investments, or I need to work in something like water efficiency, so it means that I'm working on water conservation programs. So it all depends on which data I need to solve which kind of problems. Maybe this sounds very evident and very, let's say, nearly too simple, but the point is that as long as we don't know where we are going or what are we looking for, it's very complicated to handle all of this information. One thing that I'm showing here is, okay, let's think about the amount of data or the data set completeness. This is the way we call the pack. What kind of problems are we addressing, and what would be the ideal frequency to collect this information? If we are billing occasionally, let's say that monthly basis reading is fine, and it will cost N, for example. Sorry? Okay, I'm just about to finish, don't worry. If I'm looking for billing and customer service, it means that I will need some extra information to deal with customer satisfaction issues. Well, might be better if I have daily data, and let's say it might cost between 5 to 10 times more to have this information. If we are speaking about, well, I survey, there is a surveillance program for asset management. We will definitely need more frequent, so probably it's going to be hourly data and something around 100 times and the cost for having